Star Wars Unlimited enthusiasts? Welcome to round 1 of June 25th's Star Wars Unlimited local night over at Valkyrie Vault in Brownsburg, Indiana. If you guys are looking for a place to play some Star Wars Unlimited, check out Valkyrie Vault in Brownsburg, Indiana. Thursday night, 6 p.m., $5 entry. And this is our final locals night in the Law meta. After the 3 rounds of June 25th, we will be looking over and releasing videos in the Ash format for Valkyrie Vault. So Law is pretty much over after the 3rd round of the 25th of June. But before that, we have a couple of fun decks for you all. We have JTL Red, a really fun hyper-aggressive deck that has a Voltron mechanic of being able to go Falcon, flip Han, flipping Han, plotting out aggressive negotiations using Han's ability to restand all your resources, and then playing the Han solo pilot from JTL and then swinging for a whole bunch of damage, potentially winning the game. So that is a whole kind of gimmick of it. It's just a hyper aggro beatdown strategy. That's all Han is. He's odd cost Han, so if you don't know, typically you're just going to play all different odd costs, never even. For his front side states, action, tap him, you may reveal the top card of your deck. If it shares a different odd cost with a unit already in your field, that unit may attack and gets +1 the attack. So basically, you always want to be playing a bunch of odd cost cards. He flips on 5, like I said, goes into becoming a vanilla, but we never want him to be a vanilla, but he can flip onto a fighter and give it a +4/+5 bonus. And then when played, you may restand the amount of resources up to the number of odd cost ships and upgrades, odd cost units and upgrades on your side of the board, including himself. So basically, if you have flip himself onto an odd cost vehicle, you get to restand 2. If you have 2 odd cost vehicles out and then himself, you get to restand 3, which is why you're able to do it in Chain specifically, where you can flip Han Solo first, then trigger plotting out aggressive, not aggressive negotiations, sudden ferocity, and then use Han's ability to restack your resources. So you chain it that way. That way you can restand all of your resources. He does flip on 5 as well. And then on the other side, my opponent is just playing the Battle of Hoth Vader deck. That's all they're playing. It's just the Battle of Hoth deck. So if you've busted open Battle of Hoth and you pulled out the Vader deck and you sleeved it up, that's what you got. That's all it is. So I don't really know what the whole gimmick kind of the deck was. It was just a bunch of cards here that kind of are villainy stuff. Again, the Battle of Hoth was more like a teaching deck strategy where you would have the decks already pre-made and you would just kind of draw the cards and then do as the app tells you to do, so that you can slowly learn how the game interacts and how you play from each different position. So it just gives you some basic understanding of how the game ebb and flows, and you can play it. So it's just that deck. That's all it is. There's nothing special about it. So Vader on his front side says action, pay 1, tap him, may deal 1 damage to a enemy unit or base. And then he does flip on 6. I believe he's a 5/8 or 4/8. I can't remember. And then on attack, you may deal 1 damage to a unit or base. I can't fully remember his backside either. I know he's a slightly worse than the Spark Vader. At least he's a little better. The fact of the matter is that he's a little easier to trigger off his front side, because Spark Vader could only trigger off his front side if you played a villainy unit. You could just pay 1 and then use his ability on the front side. But he's an okay Vader. Never got around to him playing him in the Law format. I thought he was an okay Vader. I think he could be a pretty fun one for Twin Suns, without a doubt. Him and the other Vader would be pretty interesting to play with. But nonetheless, guys, let's get into game number 1. Here we go for game number 1. I am starting out with a Y-Wing, and my opponent's going to go for some Snow Troopers, and then I'm going to go for a Crackshot V-Wing. As long as I control a fighter, I do not ping myself in the face. My opponent is going to claim the initiative from there. Again, I do not have any 2 plays or anything like that. Everything in my hand is odd-costed. I play 1, 3, 5, and 7. That is all I play in this deck. So anyways, we're going to have the troopers attack, and apologies for my camera going out of focus there. I'm not completely sure why. Anyways, we're going to use the Han, and the Han's going to reveal a limiting Falcon, and then we're going to go Aluminum Falcon. Then we're going to swing in for 3 damage from the Crackshot V-Wing. Then we're going to go for an Admiral Ozzel. On defeat, your opponent discards a card from their hand. And then we're going to go for the Y-Wing, 1 damage. Then we're going to put out an A-Wing, and I'm going to pass from there. Again, I do just keep the card flip face up in all cost Han. Technically, you don't technically you don't have to do that for Han Solo. I just like doing it just because there's not really a purpose. Both my opponent and I know what it is. It's public knowledge at that point because we've had an effect that triggered it, and unfortunately the opponent next to me dropped all their magic cards. Anyways, we're going to go for odd cost Han again, and unfortunately it is a 1, which does mean I do not get the +1 here, but I still get to attack with a unit here. And then we're going to attack with the V-Wing. Admiral Ozzo and the Snowtroopers did swing in, and then I'm going to go for the A-Wing with its raid here. Then we're going to go for a shuttle, and I'm going to go for the Millennium Falcon, a good target to put the Han on, because for every upgrade, for every pilot attached to it, I get a +1 to my attack here as well. So the shuttle's just there to be a nuisance and deal with the presence, because again, I'm heavy in space. My opponent is kind of a mix. I don't really know what the Vader deck is heavy in, and of course, you know, here I am playing the game and I don't even have can't even go over there to press my camera. Anyways, we're gonna go for the stolen AT Hauler, bringing that one out again on defeat. Your opponent can play that card for free. That is not a requirement here. I'm then going to go just tap my camera to bring it back to life here. And then we're going to go for a Admiral, oh shoot, what's his name? Admiral Veers. Commander Veers. Then we're going to go for Veers, and then we're going to go for the Han. Unfortunately, I do not have any plots, so I'm just going to restand all my resources here. And then we're going to swing the Falcon into, of course, the base there. Swinging, of course, for, sorry, Han only does 3 +3/+4 for his upgrade. Anyways, we're going to do Never Tell Me the Odds. I'm going to reveal each opponent discards the top 3 cards of their deck, and for each odd cost, you may deal that amount of damage to a unit. So I did hit 6 here, so I'd hit 3 on my own because again, my deck is fully odd cost, and then I hit 3 on my opponent, meaning that I am allowed to immediately deal 6 damage to a unit on my opponent's board state. So I was able to get rid of that Admiral, or that Veers off of General Veers off of the board state here. And then we're going to go for a Desolation of Hoth, and by full surprise, it destroys anything with 3 costs or less on the battlefield. And the important part why me and my opponent were very much checking it out is because the fact of the matter is it does not discern itself on leaders. So the fact of the matter is because Han was equipped to a 3 cost vehicle unit on there, he basically died because of Desolation of Hoth, because it destroys the unit, and the Desolation of Hoth, this says not non-leader units. So we're going to go for another Never Tell Me the Odds here. They're flipping, of course. I'm hitting 3. My opponent, I think, hit 6 as well, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to get rid of these Snowtroopers, and then Vader's going to flip here, and the problem is I really just don't have a way to deal with this. Right now, without my Han Solo on the board state, I am taking a bunch of damage. Anyways, the on-attack trigger goes as well, so I am going to take 1 more extra damage because of Vader, and then my opponent is going to play the stolen AT Hauler from there, and pretty much this game has been wrapped up as I do not have a way to come back from this. Yes, that Desolation of Hoth really did 100% hurt here, as I don't really have a way to get out of this one. So anyways, I'm just going to go for the Han Solo attaching to that, and then I'm going to be able to immediately swing. If I was attached to a Falcon, I get first strike, so I'm just going to swing in for a whole bunch of damage, but it's not going to be enough here, as the AT Hauler is going to be able to kill off the Y-Wing. And then I'm going to go for another, and the Republic Y-Wing from the Battle of Hoth starters set itself. I really do like this Y-Wing, by the way. On attack, you can deal a damage to your opponent, to your opponent's base there, and I'm just going to scoop that one up. I really don't have a way to deal with it. My opponent can basically kill me on the ground because they just need to take the initiative here, and then that's pretty much it. So nothing I can really do here. So the Desolation of Hoth pretty much just ended me there without even realizing it. But yeah, having a card that literally destroys 3 cost units on the board state and does not care if they're leaders is very hilariously funny, because Han Solo is equipped to a 3 cost unit. So I lost that one because of Desolation of Hoth. We're moving into game number 2. Here we go, folks, for game number 2. I'm going to start it off once again. I'm going to go for a Y-Wing, and then my opponent's going to go for a Scouting TIE Fighter, and then I'm just going to claim the initiative from there. No Crackshot V-Wing to play here. So nothing much I could do for right now, indeed. So I am going to go for Han. Han is going to flip. Ooh, Never Tell Me the Odds, so I'm immediately going to attack the base for 2. I could have destroyed the Scouting TIE Fighter, but the Scouting TIE Fighter is going to hit my Y-Wing for 2, and then I'm going to play out the Falcon, and my opponent is going to go for another Scouting TIE Fighter. Then they're going to go for the Vader effect to ping 1 damage on my base. That is correct. It's always on base. I wasn't completely sure exactly if he ever did it on unit, but no, he does always on base. Anyways, I'm going to go for odd cost Han, and I'm going to swing 4 damage with the Falcon there, and then we're going to have the second Scouting TIE Fighter to kill off my Republic Y-Wing here, and then we're going to go for the stolen AT Hauler down onto the ground here, and then we're going to have 2 damage going in from a Scouting into the stolen AT Hauler, so my opponent can, of course, claim the Hauler for themselves, and then we're going to go for the ability to immediately kill that off, it deals 3 damage to a unit, or sorry, yeah, 3 damage to a unit, and then basically it's kind of open fire that isn't open fire, and then we're going to have the Vader trigger his effect as well. But I still have the Falcon out. That is what's more important, is the fact I do have the Falcon with the Han Solo here, even though I have lost my hauler and all that. So anyways, we're going to go for Never Tell Me the Odds, and we're going to flip the top 3. I did hit all odds here. My hope is I was looking to hit all the damage there, and then I'm going to be only able to do 4 damage. Unfortunately, my opponent did not hit the 5th card I needed to deal the 5th damage I needed to go for that game state. So anyways, the hauler is going to then swing into me. The whole kind of gimmick I was hoping for is that the hauler would die to never tell me the odds. So anyways, I only get to restand 2 resources here because of odd cost Han and all that. So anyways, we're going to go for aggressive negotiation to give myself +2. But again, I am swinging for 4 on that Falcon, +3, plus then 2 there. Swing for a bunch of damage. My opponent's going to put out another scouting TIE fighter, and then my opponent's going to put out a bomber, and then I'm going to get hit in the face for 1 through Vader's effect here. So we do have all that coming. I did draw into another aggressive negotiations as well, so we do have that to come down as well if absolutely need be. So I'm just counting it out, trying to figure out what I want to do here. I do have the ability to go for the Punishing One. The Punishing One can kill off the stolen AT hauler, giving me back my AT hauler back onto the battlefield at any point before I, of course, claim the initiative completely. So we're going to go for the Punishing One here, immediately killing off the AT hauler, allowing me to, of course, reclaim it, because again, the hauler effect constantly goes back and forth. There's no way to actually miss that timing there. It always is triggerable. So it always is going to be able to come back and forth. So anyways, I'm going to play my own hauler back. Then we're going to have a bunch of those things. We're going to have the bomber and the 2 scouting TIE fighters attack. We're going to go for the Vader effect. Then we're going to play a bunch. Then we're going to go for a wamp. And then we're going to flip a Vader. Then we're going to take 4 damage to my base here. And then I'm just going to claim the initiative here. I do have aggressive negotiations in my hand. I'm just kind of figuring out what I want to do. Technically, I really didn't actually need to do the plotting here. I could have just kept in hand and it stayed at 6, because technically I have aggressive negotiations. I do show my opponent whether they want to die with aggressive negotiations or just simply the Han Solo. But it doesn't really matter. In the end, that is a game win for me, just showing the aggression of this. But again, my opponent did have it pretty close once again on me. It just happens that the fact is they built a pretty good sizable space force to deal with my space force and all of that. Didn't see Desolation of Hoth. By the way, Desolation of Hoth is only a 1 of in the deck, which is very nice. Otherwise, I would have lost a couple of things there, because Han re-equipped himself onto a 3-cost unit. So with that said, we have to go to that all-important game number 3. All right, folks, welcome to game number 3. The most beautiful worlds you're here in any TCG. My opponent is starting out off here. We're going to go for a bomber into the sky, again, getting raid 1. I'm just going to claim the initiative. No 1-drops for me this turn, which kind of really does suck when you miss out on that stuff anyways. So we're going to then tap the 3 here. We're going to go put out a Millennium Falcon, the Aluminum Falcon. What the heck's all aluminum Falcon? And then we're going to take 2 damage from that. We're going to go for the Admiral Ozzel. Again, being able on death, discard 1 card from my hand. It's always a very good, it's an interesting card, but it's interesting that not many decks really have played it. You would have thought that the second that would have come out, JTL Thrawn would have been going crazy for that. Anyways, we're going to go for Anakin's Pod Racer. Anakin Pod Racer, because it is the first thing to attack, is going to be able to use this effect here. I am going to pitch a Bowshek out, and then I'm going to be able to flip a 1, and then that's going to be 4 damage from the Falcon there. And my opponent is going to put out a Snowtrooper or Snowtrooper Lieutenant. I don't know all the cards from Hoth here. Anyways, then we're going to be able to draw 1, discard 1 for I want leads, not rumors. So I think it's I want leads is I think the name of the thing, but that's when Admiral Oz was talking to I believe it's Piet. I forget who it is there, but it's when the probe droids discover that. Anyways, we're going to go for Anakin's Pod Racer once again. Again, it does gain first strike if it's the first unit to attack for the turn, and does have ambush, which is pretty nice. So meaning that if you ambush it first, you have automatic first strike here. So I'm just kind of deciding what I want to do here. So I'm just going to go flip for the Han. Unfortunately, I did get the plot here, so I will be able to plot, and then I will only be able to restand 2 resources here because, all right, sorry, no, 3. Actually, I get to restand a whole bunch more because of Anakin's Pod Racer. So anyways, Anakin Pod Racer is still rested. We have an E-Web Blaster coming down. Anyways, we're going to go for the Voltron of Han Solo. That is going to be swinging for a whole bunch of damage because it gets +2 and the Falcon goes to 5, +3, then +3, then +2. Technically, the Falcon would have first strike because of the Han Solo pilot and all that. But anyways, we're just going to go for a damage of 2 on my base. We're going to go for the good old Never Show Me the Odds. Again, I hit 3, and my opponent did hit enough for me to kill the E-Web Blaster there with Never Tell Me the Odds. I love Never Tell Me the Odds 100%. I've never played it in Twin Suns, mainly because you can only have one copy of Never Tell Me the Odds in your Twin Suns deck. But I really want to try it in Twin Suns, but I gotta love Never Tell Me the Odds. Anyways, the Bomber is going to hit me for 2 here, and then I'm going to be able to go for a 𝐒𝐲𝐶𝐘 under the Pod Racer, and then I reveal discard the top 2 cards of your deck. You add each card that is odd costed to your hand. So 𝐒𝐲𝐶𝐘 is always going to hit in this deck because everything is odd costed. We're going to go for aggressive negotiations. I did get a couple of 2 more cards here, and then I'm just going to count it up. It's the exact same damage as before, but then plus 3 for aggressive negotiations. So that is pretty much going to be well end game then and there. Apologies. Let me put that. But yeah, that's going to be game right then and there with the aggressive negotiations. Again, why aggressive negotiations has not been banned in the Premier format, I will not know. Let us hope the Galactic Championship will finally put aggressive negotiations behind the shed to where it shall be removed for Premier. But that is it. And in the end, Han JTL Red was able to beat Vader Hoth Blue. That is correct. It was a close one, though. Game one losing Desolation of Hoth, and then game 2 nearly losing it towards the end. It was a very close one. Surprised that my opponent could even take off 1 game from me. Thought that was going to be easy win. It had to go to 3 games to become an easy win. But with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments on the decks, on the leaders, and if you guys have tried out either of these leaders in the Law format and are going to try them out in the Ash format. And with that said, while you guys are commenting, do make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you know when my videos go live for you. And we'll see you here next time. I'm on Dragons TCG.